The sprawling training grounds of the Intergalactic Academy were alive with movement. Cadets from hundreds of different worlds practiced their drills under the watchful eyes of instructors hovering on anti-gravity platforms. Some raced across the obstacle courses, leaping over energy barriers and swinging across gravity-free zones. Others maneuvered spacecraft through simulated asteroid fields in the Academy's flight chambers. Every corner of the Academy buzzed with determination, ambition, and a faint tension that always came with competition. Among the cadets, a new recruit had quietly arrived a week ago. He was shorter than most, not particularly muscular, and carried no exotic energy weapons like the others. His uniform, though neat, seemed almost ordinary against the vibrant alien fabrics of his peers. Yet, his eyes held a quiet sharpness, calm focus that made him notice every detail around him. That cadet was Ethan. Today, the cadets were in the central training arena for combat drills. A holographic instructor floated above the field, giving instructions in multiple languages simultaneously. Cadets lined up in their respective groups, each eager to demonstrate their skills. Among them, Zyra, an alien with pale silver skin and long, flowing tentacle-like hair, adjusted her gloves and looked around the field with an air of supreme confidence. Her kind was known for agility, precision, and sharp reflexes. Among all the cadets, she was one of the best. Her silver eyes fell on Ethan, who stood a few meters away watching the others. She noticed his hesitance as he adjusted his grip on the standard-issue plasma baton. He was clearly struggling to match the speed and coordination of the alien cadets around him. A small, sly smile crossed her lips. Well, she muttered under her breath, loud enough for nearby cadets to hear. Looks like a little Earthling thinks he can survive here. Ethan didn't respond. He simply observed the drills, noting every movement, every tactic, every weakness in the other's technique. There was no fear in him, only quiet concentration. That calmness seemed to irritate Zyra further. "Hey, cadet," Zyra called, stepping forward. Her voice carried across the field like a whip. "Why don't you show us what humans can do? Or are you just going to stand there and breathe?" A few cadets snickered, whispering to each other. Some nudged their companions, pointing at Ethan, while others watched with curiosity. It was not every day a human cadet joined the academy. Most of the cadets assumed humans were weak and primitive, their technology behind the standards of intergalactic civilizations. Ethan looked at Zyra calmly. His voice was even, polite but firm. "I'll show what I can do when it's my turn." Iris' smile widened, sharp and confident. "Oh, I'll make sure your turn comes sooner than you think." The drills began, and cadets were paired for 101 combat simulations. Each match was observed by instructors who recorded every move for evaluation. Ethan's first opponent was a large, reptilian cadet from the planet Raxor. The Raxorian was confident, swinging a dual-energy staff. Striking with a force that would have knocked out most cadets in a single hit, Ethan's reaction was subtle but precise. He dodged and weaved, his movements economical and deliberate. He didn't rely on brute strength. Instead, he studied his opponent's rhythm and predicted each strike. At first, the Raxorian underestimated him, thinking a human could not possibly match his speed. But with each dodge and counter, Ethan surprised everyone. He didn't strike aggressively, but he made calculated movements that left his opponent off balance. Zyra's eyes narrowed. "Not bad." "For a human," she muttered, her pride slightly stung. She knew that if a cadet performed this well, it would challenge the Academy's long-held belief about Earthlings. Next, it was Zyra's turn to demonstrate her skill. She approached Ethan with the same confidence she had shown all week. "Ready to be humiliated, human?" she asked, her voice sharp, teasing, almost cruel. Ethan didn't flinch. "I'm ready," he said calmly. The instructor activated the holographic combat simulation. Energy barriers sprang up around the field, and the cadets' weapons hummed to life. Zyra moved first, her speed nearly a blur, striking with precise, fast jabs. Most cadets would have been hit instantly, unable to react in time. But Ethan moved with uncanny timing, stepping back, ducking, and sidestepping. His movements weren't flashy. They were deliberate, efficient, and surprisingly effective. Zyra struck again, harder this time, expecting Ethan to falter. To her shock, he anticipated her strike, twisting just enough to deflect the blow and creating an opening to step forward. His next move wasn't aggressive. Instead, he feigned a strike, drawing her in. Then pivoted and disarmed her baton with a swift, clean motion. The field went silent for a moment. Zyra froze, her eyes wide. Her pride stung like never before. She had mocked him, expecting a weak, inexperienced cadet, and now she was the one caught off guard. Impossible. She whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Ethan handed back her baton politely. "Your technique is very strong," he said calmly. "But every motion has a pattern. If you read it carefully, it's predictable." Zyra's mouth opened, but no words came. For a moment, she felt a strange mixture of irritation and admiration. How could someone from a supposedly primitive planet move with such precision and control? Whispers spread quickly among the cadets. "Did you see that? The human just disarmed Zyra. She's the best cadet in her group." Another whispered. Ethan remained calm, his expression neutral. He had expected skepticism, mockery, and underestimation. That was normal, but he had also prepared for this moment. All his life, humans had been underestimated in the galaxy, and he had learned to turn that expectation into an advantage. Zyra, on the other hand, found herself fighting against her pride. She wanted to scoff, to regain her superiority, but her mind was racing. She had to figure out how this human was able to match her skill. She studied him closely, noting every subtle shift of weight, every blink, every breath. He moved not like a beginner, but like someone trained in techniques she had never seen. After the simulation ended, the instructor gave feedback. "Ethan demonstrates remarkable control under pressure." "Zyra, excellent execution, but you were challenged more than expected. Consider studying your opponent's patterns before striking." Cadets around them buzzed with excitement. Some were impressed, others confused, and a few were jealous. But Zyra couldn't hide her thoughts. For the first time, she felt uncertainty. Later, in the Academy's observation hall, Zyra approached Ethan while he reviewed his performance notes. She was silent for a few moments, studying him. Then she finally spoke. "Humans aren't supposed to be this capable," she said, almost as if she were questioning herself. Ethan looked up, smiling slightly. "We may be underestimated, but that doesn't mean we are weak." Zyra's pride bristled. She wanted to argue, to mock, to reclaim her sense of superiority. Yet she found no words that could dismiss his skill. She realized that her mockery had been premature and, perhaps, foolish. The next day, the Academy announced a new challenge. A team exercise where cadets would be paired with someone they had never worked with before. Zyra's heart sank when she saw that she had been paired with Ethan. She had expected to be teamed with someone from her own species, someone she could dominate and guide. Instead, she would have to work alongside the human she had mocked as they prepared for the exercise. Zyra's mind raced with strategy, pride, and a strange sense of anticipation. For the first time, she wasn't sure how the exercise would go. She had to respect his skill, but her pride demanded she maintain her reputation. Ethan, as always, remained calm. "Let's do this," he said simply, his voice steady and confident. Zyra nodded, still unsure of what to expect. Something told her that this human cadet from Earth was not just another trainee. He might be the most dangerous one she had ever underestimated. And for the first time, she felt the sharp edge of doubt and unfamiliar feeling. For the cadet who had always been the best, the central arena's energy barriers activated again. The team exercise began. Zyra and Ethan would have to face not only the obstacles set by the instructors, but also each other's unpredictable skills. The Academy watched with interest, and the galaxy's underestimation of humans was about to be challenged in a way no one had imagined. The training arena hummed with energy as the new exercise began. Holographic obstacles appeared suddenly, shifting positions, creating an unpredictable maze for the cadets to navigate. The instructor's eyes glimmered with interest as they observed the pairings. When Zira realized she had been paired with Ethan, she felt a strange combination of frustration and curiosity. "This should be easy," she muttered under her breath. "I just need to guide him." Ethan glanced at her, his calm expression unchanged. "We should work together," he said simply, "if we want to complete this quickly." Zyra's silver eyes narrowed. Work together? She had expected a trainee who would follow her orders, not someone who thought of himself as equal. She felt a flicker of annoyance, but curiosity began to creep in. Maybe he wasn't just another cadet to mock. The first obstacle was a series of floating energy platforms suspended over a pit of simulated lava. Cadets had to leap from one platform to the next, timing their jumps precisely. Zyra shot ahead with her usual grace, moving almost too fast for the naked eye to follow. She expected Ethan to struggle. To her surprise, he calculated each jump carefully, landing on the platforms with precision. He didn't leap with raw speed. Instead, he timed his movements, using the natural rhythm of the platforms to his advantage. Zyra blinked. How does he do that? She thought. She had never seen a cadet use timing and observation in such a way. Most relied on brute speed or force. Next came a maze of laser beams. The beams flashed in complex patterns, and cadets had to maneuver through without touching them. Zyra darted through the first few rows with confidence, but Ethan didn't follow immediately. Instead, he paused, watching the beams, analyzing their rhythm. "Why are you hesitating?" Zyra snapped, her voice carrying a mix of impatience and disbelief. Ethan smiled slightly. "Rushing will get us burned," he said. "It's better to wait for the right moment." Zyra frowned. Humans think differently, she realized. Most cadets would have charged ahead, relying on reflexes. But this human was patient, observant, precise. She hadn't prepared for this kind of strategy. When he moved, it was flawless. He twisted his body through the beams with elegant efficiency, barely disturbing the holographic energy around him. Zyra couldn't help but notice how calm he remained, never panicking, never overextending. By the time she caught up, Ethan had already reached the center of the maze. The other cadets whispered in astonishment. "Did you see that? He didn't even touch a single beam. She's fast, but he's clever," another said. Zyra's pride pricked her sharply. She had expected to dominate him, to show everyone that aliens like her were superior. Instead, she was forced to follow his lead. The next challenge was the most difficult. At a simulated combat scenario with holographic opponents. They had to defend a base while navigating through obstacles, all under pressure. Zyra immediately took a defensive position, striking down holographic attackers with precision and speed. Ethan, however, moved differently. He didn't just attack or defend randomly. He set traps, used the environment to his advantage, and anticipated the enemy's movements. It was a style she had never seen at the Academy. He wasn't relying on alien agility or raw strength, he was using strategy, logic, and foresight. One particular moment caught her attention. A holographic enemy surged toward her from behind a holographic wall. Zyra spun to strike, but Ethan was already there, blocking the enemy with perfect timing, pushing her just enough to avoid contact. She had instinctively moved faster than she ever had, but his anticipation saved them both.
Yo!
Zyra started, but no words came. She had no argument, no insult, no superiority left. He had proven his skill once again. By the end of the exercise, Zyra found herself exhausted, but Ethan remained composed, almost unaffected by the rigorous challenges. The instructors nodded approvingly, making notes. "Remarkable," one said. "Cadet Ethan demonstrates skill beyond expectations." "Cadet Zyra, your performance was excellent, but observe how your partner adapts and strategizes. There's much to learn here." Zyra's jaw tightened. "Adapt and strategize," she repeated in disbelief. She had always prided herself on her agility and precision. Yet she realized that those qualities alone weren't enough to defeat someone like Ethan. She was forced to recognize a new kind of talent, a human talent that she had never encountered before. Later, as they walked to the Academy's observation hall for debriefing, Zyra's mind buzzed with questions. How could a human cadet move with such precision? How could he remain calm under pressure while most cadets panicked? How had she misjudged him so completely? Ethan spoke first, breaking the silence. Do you want me to explain? Zyra raised an eyebrow. Explain what? Why I move the way I do, he said. It's not magic or luck. It's training. From Earth, our methods are different. We focus on observation, patience, and prediction. Zyra laughed softly, a sound without amusement. Earth? You mean that primitive planet at the edge of the galaxy? Ethan's eyes remained calm. Primitive doesn't mean weak. Humans are underestimated because others assume we cannot compete. But we adapt, and we think. Zyra's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, she felt unsure of herself. She had mocked him, called him weak, assumed he was inferior, and now she had no words to challenge his skill. The debriefing hall was full of cadets, instructors and observers from the Intergalactic Council. Zyra and Ethan were seated side by side, each reviewing their performance on the holographic screens. Zyra's pride still burned inside her, but it was tempered by respect, an unfamiliar feeling that left her restless. As the instructors discussed the results, whispers spread among the cadets. Did you see how the human handled the lasers? He predicted every move in the maze. Even Zyra couldn't keep up. Zyra felt a flush of irritation, but she also felt something else, a spark of curiosity, a desire to understand how this cadet thought. Humans were not supposed to be this skilled. She had grown up believing that alien species like hers dominated every field. Yet here was a human cadet showing abilities that rivaled and sometimes surpassed the best. After the debriefing, Zyra approached Ethan privately. Why didn't you tell anyone you were from Earth? She asked, her tone a mixture of suspicion and amazement. Ethan shrugged slightly. I didn't think it mattered. I just wanted to show what I could do. You handled that entire exercise like you had been here for years. Zyra exclaimed. Ethan smiled, modest but confident. I have trained differently. My people may not be the fastest or the strongest, but we observe, we predict, and we adapt. That's enough to survive and to succeed. Zyra studied him, her mind racing. For the first time in her life, she felt challenged in a way that wasn't about physical skill alone. This was mental agility, intuition, and adaptability. She realized that her previous mockery had been ignorant. She had judged someone before truly understanding their abilities. The realization was unsettling, but it also excited her. If humans could perform like this, if they could rise to meet the standards of the Intergalactic Academy, then the galaxy might be underestimating them entirely. Different, Zyra said finally, her voice quieter than usual. Different is not always bad, Ethan replied. Sometimes it's the key to success. Zyra's silver eyes reflected a mix of irritation, admiration, and curiosity. She knew she had underestimated him, and that mistake would not happen again. The Academy, the other cadets, and even she herself had yet to understand what a human was truly capable of. As they left the hall and headed toward their quarters, Zyra felt a spark of respect. She wasn't ready to admit it publicly yet, but inside, she knew she had encountered a cadet unlike any she had ever faced. Ethan, calm as always, walked beside her, unaware of the inner storm he had ignited in her mind. And somewhere deep inside, Zyra realized that this human cadet from Earth, this planet that everyone had dismissed as weak, was going to change the way she saw strength, skill, and perhaps even herself. The Academy was alive with competition, but a quiet revolution had begun. A human had arrived, and the galaxy's perception of Earth and of what was possible was about to be challenged. The Academy's halls were quieter than usual, the hum of activity replaced by a tense anticipation. Today, cadets were to receive a new assignment, a mission that would test their ability to work as teams and apply everything they had learned. It was not a simple drill. It was a real test of skill, intelligence, and adaptability. Zyra walked through the hallways with her usual confidence, but a subtle unease lingered. She kept thinking about Ethan. The human cadet had surprised everyone. especially her, with his calm precision and clever tactics. She had been forced to follow his lead during the team exercise, and though she would never admit it publicly, she had begun to respect his skill. As they reached the briefing chamber, cadets from every class had already gathered. Holographic displays floated in midair, showing maps of alien planets, danger zones, and coordinates for exploration. The head instructor, a tall, multi-limbed alien named Varric, stood before them, his voice amplified by a neural speaker. "Cadets," Varric began, "today we assign missions that will test not only your skill, but also your ability to adapt and cooperate under pressure. Each team has been chosen for complementary abilities. Some of you may be surprised by your partners. Remember, survival depends on strategy, coordination, and trust." Whispers ran through the chamber as cadets scanned the list of pairings. Zyra's heart skipped a beat when she saw her name paired with Ethan again. Not again, she thought. Why does he keep showing up next to me? Ethan, ever calm, gave her a small nod. "Looks like we'll be partners again," he said. His voice carried no pride, no arrogance, just quiet confidence. Zyra clenched her fists inside her gloves. She had hoped for a less challenging pairing, someone she could dominate. Instead, she would have to work with the human she had once mocked, the cadet whose skill had forced her to reconsider her assumptions. The briefing continued, and Varric's hologram projected the mission objectives. They were to explore a newly discovered planet at the edge of known space. Reports suggested strange energy readings, unknown life forms, and environmental hazards. The planet was uncharted, and cadets would have to rely on both skill and ingenuity to complete the mission. Teams will be graded on efficiency, creativity, and teamwork, Varric said. Failure is not an option. You will face challenges that simulate real interstellar operations, and any misstep could be dangerous. Prepare yourselves. The cadets were dismissed, and Zyra walked with Ethan toward the equipment chamber. She could feel her curiosity growing. Humans were generally underestimated. And yet this human, was proving otherwise at every turn. "I didn't realize humans were allowed in elite missions," Zyra said cautiously. Trying to mask her intrigue, Ethan looked at her calmly. "We're allowed, but most species don't expect us to succeed. That works to our advantage." Zyra raised an eyebrow. "Advantage, you mean?" "Cleverness." "Yes," Ethan replied simply. "Observation, prediction, adaptation. Those are skills often overlooked." Zyra fell silent. He spoke with humility, yet with certainty. She realized that his confidence was not arrogance, it was grounded in capability. This human cadet, once mocked, was proving himself at every turn as they prepared for departure. Zyra noticed something unusual. Ethan was studying the mission equipment with meticulous care, checking every scanner, analyzing every gadget. He didn't rush, didn't rely on instinct alone. He applied logic, pattern recognition, and anticipation. Zyra frowned slightly. Why is he so different from other cadets? She wondered. She had never encountered someone who could combine patience with skill in this way. The transport shuttle to the mission planet was sleek and compact, designed for speed and maneuverability. As they ascended into orbit, Zyra finally broke the silence. "Where exactly are you from?" she asked. She had been curious for some time, but had refrained from asking directly. Ethan hesitated, then said, "Earth." Zyra blinked. "Earth," she repeated, trying to mask her surprise. "That primitive planet." Ethan met her gaze calmly. "Primitive? In your eyes, perhaps? But humans have learned to survive, to adapt, and to think beyond the obvious. That's why I am here." Zyra's mouth went dry. For weeks, she had assumed that humans were weak, incapable, and unworthy of serious training at the academy. And now, the truth hit her like a wave. This cadet, the one she had mocked, came from Earth, the planet everyone dismissed. She could feel her pride and assumptions clashing with reality. Every time she had looked down on him, she had been wrong. Every sneer, every mockery, every thought of superiority now seemed foolish. "From Earth," she said finally, her voice quieter than usual. "So all this skill? It's human?" Ethan nodded. Yes, we're underestimated, and that allows us to be unexpected. Most species think we are weak, so we adapt and excel in ways they don't predict. Zyra's mind raced. She remembered the exercises, the maze of lasers, the obstacles, and the combat simulations. Every time he had surprised her, and now she understood why. He wasn't simply skilled, he was human. And humans had a way of turning weakness into strength. The shuttle broke through the planet's atmosphere, and the surface below was revealed. Jagged cliffs, shimmering crystal formations, and dense forests of strange luminous plants. Energy readings flickered on their scanners, fluctuating unpredictably. Varick's holographic instructions guided them. Your mission is to investigate the energy anomalies, record environmental data, and report any unusual life forms. The planet is uncharted. Caution is advised. Zira adjusted her gloves and weapon. We'll have to rely on each other, she said, not as a statement, but as a realization. Ethan gave a small nod. Exactly. Observation and coordination will be key. As they stepped onto the alien terrain, Zyra noticed how Ethan moved differently than other cadets. He paused to analyze footprints in the crystalline soil, checked subtle changes in energy readings, and used his scanner with careful precision. Every movement was deliberate, purposeful, and intelligent. A sudden rustle in the nearby forest drew their attention. Alien creatures, small but fast, darted between the luminous trees. Zyra instinctively prepared to strike, but Ethan raised a hand. Wait, he said. Notice their movement pattern. They're not attacking. They're scouting. Zyra hesitated. The creatures paused for a moment, then disappeared back into the forest. She realized Ethan was correct. His understanding of behavior, alien or not, was remarkable. As they moved deeper into the forest, the energy readings spiked. Holographic sensors in their helmets displayed fluctuating data, warning of environmental hazards. Zyra's confidence wavered slightly, but Ethan remained composed. He adjusted the sensors. Using logic and intuition to predict the safest path, they reached a crystalline canyon, where the energy readings were highest. Holographic projections indicated dangerous energy surges that could destabilize the terrain. Zyra scanned the area, preparing for potential combat, but Ethan examined the patterns carefully. See these fluctuations? He said, they follow a cycle. We can predict when it's safe to cross. Zyra watched, fascinated as he timed their movements perfectly, guiding them across unstable ground without triggering a single hazard. For the first time, Zyra truly understood what humans could do. This cadet, underestimated and mocked, was proving that Earth had untapped potential in ways the galaxy had ignored. As they reached the other side, Zyra finally spoke, her voice quieter than usual. I misjudged you, she admitted. I thought humans were. I was wrong. Ethan looked at her, calm and composed. It's a common mistake, he said. Underestimation can be dangerous. That's why humans survive. We turn the unexpected into advantage. Zyra felt a mix of shame and respect. She had mocked him publicly, expecting to dominate, and yet here she was, following his lead through alien terrain. Learning from his observation and strategy, the realization was both humbling and inspiring. If one human cadet could perform like this, perhaps Earth was far more capable than anyone had believed. Zyra's mind raced with possibilities, both for this mission and for the future of the Academy. As they set up a temporary camp for data collection, Zyra watched Ethan carefully place sensors and analyze readings. Every action was precise, deliberate, and intelligent. She felt a quiet admiration growing inside her, a respect she had never expected to feel for someone she had once mocked, and somewhere deep inside, she knew that this revelation, the truth about humans, the unexpected skill of this cadet was only the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated them, but she would no longer make that mistake. Ethan, ever calm, completed the setup and looked at her. We'll need to monitor these readings overnight, he said. The planet is unpredictable. But if we work together, we can gather everything we need. Zyra nodded, still processing what she had learned. For the first time, she felt that her arrogance and pride had been challenged for the first time. She was ready to learn from someone she had once considered beneath her. The stars above the alien canopy shimmered, and the hum of strange energy filled the air. Zira realized that the galaxy was vast, full of surprises, and that humans once dismissed might hold secrets no one yet understood. Tonight, she would sleep beside a cadet she had once mocked. But tomorrow, they would explore this strange world together. And she knew, deep inside, that her perception of strength, skill, and courage was about to change forever. The alien planet was more unpredictable than Zira had imagined. Jagged cliffs towered above them, casting long shadows across the crystalline terrain. Strange plants glowed faintly, illuminating the path ahead, while energy readings from their sensors flickered and shifted in strange, irregular patterns. Zira adjusted her gloves and weapon, scanning the surroundings. "Stay alert," she warned. "This planet is full of surprises." Ethan, calm as ever, adjusted his helmet scanner and began mapping the terrain. "The energy fluctuations follow a pattern," he said. "If we time our movements carefully, we can avoid hazards." Zira's silver eyes narrowed. "Patterns. On this planet?" Ethan nodded. "Nothing in nature is completely random. Observation and timing are key." Zira wasn't used to depending on anyone, least of all a human she had once mocked. But now she found herself following his lead. She had to admit Ethan's calm precision was saving them from danger. Their first obstacle appeared suddenly, a deep chasm with jagged crystal spires jutting from the ground. The energy readings spiked violently. A wrong step could trigger a collapse or a surge of unstable energy. Zira instinctively leaped, her agility allowing her to cross the first half of the chasm with ease. But when she looked back, Ethan hadn't moved. He observed the shifting energy currents, calculating the safest path. Then, with perfect timing, he sprinted and leaped, landing gracefully on a stable ledge. Zira's mouth opened in surprise. You timed that perfectly," she said. Ethan gave a small smile. "Observation, prediction, and patience. Sometimes it's better to wait than to act recklessly." Zira clenched her fists, a mix of admiration and frustration building inside her. She was being forced to acknowledge that her assumptions about humans were wrong. She had mocked him, underestimated him, and yet he was saving them both from danger with intelligence and strategy. It's not raw strength. The next challenge was a forest of towering crystalline trees. Each tree emitted faint pulses of energy, creating an unpredictable obstacle course. Some pulses were harmless, but others could destabilize the ground or generate sudden energy spikes as they entered the forest. Creatures darted between the trees, fast-moving predators with glowing eyes. Zira prepared to strike, ready to defend them with her agility and combat skills. "Wait," Ethan said, raising a hand. "They're not attacking, they're scouting. We can avoid them if we move carefully." Zira frowned, but followed his lead. The creatures circled them, sniffing and chirping, but Ethan's careful movements allowed them to pass safely. Zira realized he wasn't just clever, he understood alien behavior in ways she had never learned as they reached a clearing. The energy readings spiked sharply. A massive crystalline formation pulsed with unstable energy, sending vibrations through the ground. Zira instinctively jumped back, ready to attack or dodge, but Ethan calmly examined the formation. "If we approach from this angle and step in sync with the pulse, we can get close without triggering it," he explained. Zira studied him. His methodical approach was unlike anything she had seen. Most cadets relied on speed, force, or instinct. Ethan relied on analysis, timing, and prediction human ingenuity applied under pressure. They moved carefully, step by step, synchronizing their movements with the energy pulses. When they reached the formation, Ethan quickly set up a sensor array to record the energy patterns. Zira followed, helping with the equipment. Together, they worked efficiently, blending her agility and strength with his precision and strategy. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A hidden fissure opened nearby, sending shards of crystal flying. Zira reacted instantly, deflecting the shards with her baton. while Ethan quickly analyzed the fissure's pattern. "Move to the left. Step in the gaps between pulses," he shouted. Zyra followed, leaping and dodging as Ethan guided her through the danger. They reached a safe zone on the other side, breathing heavily but unharmed. Zyra's chest swelled with a mixture of relief and newfound respect. You're incredible," she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan shrugged modestly. "Humans survive by thinking, adapting, and using the unexpected to our advantage. That's all." Zyra's pride burned, but she couldn't argue. He had saved them more than once today, not through raw strength, but through skill, observation, and intelligence. She realized that this human cadet, whom she had mocked, had taught her something important. Strength was not always obvious, and intelligence could be just as powerful as physical ability. The mission continued as they reached a canyon. The energy readings were most volatile. Holographic simulations indicated unstable terrain and dangerous energy spikes. The challenge was clear. They had to cross the canyon and reach the far side to complete their objective. Zyra stepped forward. "I'll go first," she said. Leaping across the unstable ground with perfect agility, Ethan analyzed the terrain carefully, mapping out the safest path. He noticed small cracks in the crystal beneath Zyra's feet. "Be careful," he shouted, but Zyra had already jumped to a stable spot. Ethan followed, timing his movements with precision. Midway across, a massive energy surge erupted from the canyon floor. Zyra dodged instinctively, but the surge blocked her path. She froze for a split second, long enough to sense danger. Ethan reacted instantly. Using a combination of timing and environmental awareness, he grabbed her arm and pulled her out of harm's way. They landed safely on a stable platform. Zyra's silver eyes widened as she looked at him. You saved me," she exclaimed, her voice a mix of surprise and gratitude. Ethan smiled calmly. Humans adapt when needed. Sometimes that means protecting others. For the first time, Zyra felt humility. She had mocked him, assumed he was weak, and yet here he was, not only keeping up with her, but saving her life. The realization was both shocking and enlightening. As they reached the far side of the canyon, Zyra noticed the alien flora beginning to pulse with a soft, rhythmic glow. Ethan quickly set up sensors to record the energy patterns. He moved efficiently, combining logic and observation with careful timing. While Zyra provided cover, scanning for hidden dangers, hours passed as they navigated the alien terrain, encountering hostile creatures, environmental hazards, and shifting landscapes. Each time, Ethan's calm precision and intelligence allowed them to overcome obstacles that would have challenged even the most experienced cadets. By the end of the mission, Zyra was exhausted but enlightened. She realized that her initial arrogance and mockery had been misplaced. Humans, she now understood, were capable of remarkable skill, ingenuity, and resilience. Ethan had proven that even in a galaxy full of extraordinary beings, humans could hold their own and often excel. As they returned to their shuttle, Zyra finally spoke, her voice steady but reflective. "I misjudged you. I mocked you, and I was wrong. You're more capable than I ever imagined." Ethan looked at her, calm and modest. "It's easy to underestimate others," he said. "But those who observe, adapt, and think carefully can turn the unexpected into strength." Aya nodded, a quiet respect settling over her. For the first time, she saw Ethan not as a human cadet to be mocked, but as an Equella partner whose skill and intelligence demanded acknowledgement as the shuttle lifted off the planet. Zyra stared out at the alien terrain below. The mission had tested her abilities, challenged her assumptions, and opened her eyes to the untapped potential of humans. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated Earthlings for too long and that humans like Ethan could change everything. Ethan, as always, remained calm, reviewing the data they had collected. Zyra watched him, a mixture of admiration and respect building within her. She had once mocked this cadet, assumed he was weak, and yet he had taught her something she would never forget. Strength and skill were not always obvious, and sometimes the underestimated could be the most extraordinary of all. For Zyra, the mission had been more than a test of skill. It had been a lesson in humility, observation, and respect. And for Ethan, it had been another opportunity to demonstrate that humans, when underestimated, could rise to meet any challenge in a galaxy that had long dismissed them. The stars outside the shuttle shimmered as they returned to the Academy. A quiet bond had formed between the two cadets, built not on friendship yet, but on mutual respect and understanding. The galaxy and the Academy itself. Never underestimate humans again, with cadets like Ethan leading the way. As the shuttle docked, Zyra turned to him. "Tomorrow," she said, a small smile forming, "we'll face the next challenge. And this time, I won't underestimate you." Ethan smiled back, calm and confident. "Good. I wouldn't want you to." The adventure was far from over. But for now, Zyra understood something she had never realized before. True strength could come from intelligence, patience, and adaptation, and sometimes it could come from the most unexpected of sources. The alien planet stretched before them in quiet beauty, its crystalline structures glowing faintly under the twin suns. After the previous day's challenges, Zyra and Ethan had settled into a routine. They had begun to anticipate each other's movements, learning to trust one another's instincts. The bond between them was not yet friendship, but it was stronger than anything Zyra had felt with most cadets, a bond built on respect and mutual reliance. "This way," Ethan said, pointing to a narrow canyon where energy readings spiked more frequently. "We need to reach the central energy field. That's where the highest concentration of anomalous energy is." Zyra nodded. "Lead the way," she said, her voice steady. She no longer felt the need to assert superiority. Ethan had earned her respect. She had learned that trying to dominate him would be foolish. The canyon walls shimmered with strange light. As they moved carefully along the narrow path, energy pulses shifted unpredictably, and the crystalline floor beneath them occasionally trembled. Zyra's agility and combat skills, combined with Ethan's careful analysis and timing, allowed them to navigate the canyon safely. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the canyon. Small cracks appeared in the crystalline walls, and shards began to fall. Zyra reacted instantly, deflecting a falling shard with her baton. Ethan, observing the pattern, guided her movements. "Step to the left. Wait for the next pulse," he shouted. Zyra followed, her movements precise and efficient. Together, they reached a small alcove, breathing heavily but unharmed. Zyra looked at Ethan, her expression a mixture of awe and gratitude. "You're incredible," she admitted, her voice low. "I've never worked with anyone who can anticipate danger like you," Ethan shrugged modestly. "It's not about being incredible. It's about observing, predicting, and acting carefully. That's how humans survive and succeed." Zyra smiled faintly. She had once mocked him, assuming that humans were weak and inferior. Now she realized how wrong she had been. Humans had ingenuity, adaptability, and resilience qualities that could rival any alien species. They continued deeper into the canyon until they reached the central energy field. The area was dominated by a massive crystalline formation, pulsating with erratic energy. Holographic projections in their helmets warned that direct contact could destabilize the formation. Zyra took a defensive stance, ready for combat. "We need to be careful," she said. "Any mistake could trigger an energy surge." Ethan examined the formation carefully. "The pulses follow a cycle," he explained. "If we time our movements correctly, we can approach safely and set the sensors to record the energy data." Zyra nodded, following his lead. Step by step, they moved closer, synchronizing their movements with the energy pulses. Ethan's careful timing and observation allowed them to avoid the dangerous spikes. When they reached the formation, quickly set up the sensors while Zyra scanned for any hidden threats. Hours passed as they worked together, their movements coordinated and efficient. Zyra had come to rely on Ethan's intelligence and observation skills, and he had come to respect her agility and combat instincts. The mission, which had once seemed overwhelming, was now manageable because they had learned to trust each other completely. As the sensors recorded the energy patterns, a sudden surge erupted from the formation. The ground shook violently, and shards of crystal shot into the air. Zira reacted instinctively, deflecting the shards with precision. Ethan, analyzing the surge, guided her to a safe zone. "You've saved me again," Zira said, breathing heavily, but smiling faintly. Ethan shook his head. "We save each other. That's what teamwork is." Zira looked at him, realizing how much she had learned from him. He was calm under pressure, intelligent in unpredictable situations, incapable of thinking beyond instinct. His human ingenuity had turned challenges into opportunities. And she knew the galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. The final phase of their mission required them to collect energy samples from the pulsating crystalline formation. Zira positioned herself near the formation, deflecting falling shards, while Ethan carefully extracted samples, using his understanding of the energy cycles to avoid triggering surges. "Careful with that one," Zira warned, her tone respectful. "It's unstable," Ethan nodded, adjusting his approach. "I've calculated the safest angle. Watch the pulse rhythm, it's almost predictable." Zira followed his lead, amazed at how calmly and efficiently he worked. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and intelligent. She had never seen a cadet, human or alien, operate with such skill under extreme pressure. When the samples were secured, they retreated to a safe distance, observing the formation from afar. Zira finally spoke, her voice thoughtful. "I underestimated you," she admitted. "I mocked you because I thought humans were weak." "I was wrong," Ethan smiled faintly. "Most people underestimate humans. It works to our advantage. But respect is earned, and you've earned it by recognizing skill when you see it." Zira's eyes softened. For the first time, she felt genuine respect and admiration for a cadet she had once dismissed. Her arrogance and pride had been challenged, and she had grown stronger not just physically, but mentally, by learning to acknowledge talent and ingenuity wherever it came from. As they prepared to leave the planet, Ethan reviewed the collected data. Zira watched him, feeling a quiet sense of humility. He had proven that humans could adapt, survive, and even excel in a galaxy full of extraordinary beings. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, carrying them back to the Academy. Zira leaned back, reflecting on the mission. The experience had changed her. She had learned that true strength was not just about agility, speed, or force. It was about observation, intelligence, and adaptability. Humans, she realized, had these qualities in abundance. Back at the Academy, cadets and instructors gathered to debrief. The data they had collected was analyzed and recorded. Ethan's performance was praised by the head instructor, Varek. "Cadets Ethan and Zira have demonstrated exceptional skill," Varek announced. "Their teamwork, intelligence, and adaptability under pressure have exceeded expectations. This mission proves that talent comes in many forms, and underestimation can be dangerous." Zira glanced at Ethan, a small smile forming. She felt proud, not in the way she had once thought, but proud to have worked alongside someone who had challenged her assumptions and earned her respect. As the cadets left the debriefing hall, Zira finally spoke quietly to Ethan. "I hope you understand something," she said. "I won't mock you again. Humans have potential, and you've proven it." Ethan nodded calmly. "I never expected mockery, but respect is always appreciated." Zira smiled, a genuine one this time. She had learned that skill and courage were not limited by species, that sometimes the underestimated could rise to greatness. The Academy buzzed with excitement as other cadets discussed the mission. Many were curious about Ethan's abilities, and whispers spread about the human cadet who had outperformed expectations. Zira knew that this was only the beginning. Humans like Ethan could change the perception of Earthlings throughout the galaxy. Later, as they walked through the Academy's corridors, Zira felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. She had faced danger, learned to trust, and discovered that humans were far more capable than she had ever imagined. Her pride no longer demanded superiority. Instead, it had transformed into respect and understanding. Ethan walked beside her, calm and composed, unaware of the impact he had on Zyra. She realized that humans, underestimated by many, could rise to challenges that seemed impossible. Their ingenuity, patience, and adaptability were qualities that even the most skilled alien cadets had to acknowledge. That night, as the stars shimmered above the academy, Zyra reflected on the lessons she had learned. Mockery, assumptions, and arrogance could blind even the most confident cadet, but respect, observation, and trust could create bonds that led to success. Even in the most dangerous situations, Ethan, ever diligent, reviewed the mission reports. His calm presence a reminder that true strength often came from the unexpected. Zyra watched him and smiled quietly to herself. She had once mocked him, dismissed his potential, and assumed he was weak. Now she knew the truth. Humans could rise to greatness, and one human cadet from Earth had already proven it. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but Zyra felt ready. She had learned from Ethan that strength was not only physical, it was mental, adaptable, and often hidden in the underestimated. Together, they had faced danger, collected critical data, and survived a planet that could have destroyed them both. And as she looked at Ethan, standing calm and composed beside her, she knew that the future of the Academy and, perhaps even the galaxy, was changing. Humans had arrived, not as weaklings to be mocked, but as capable, intelligent, and resourceful beings ready to take their place among the stars. For Zyra, respect had been earned and lessons had been learned. For Ethan, a quiet determination continued to shine. Humans, underestimated but undeterred, could face any challenge and succeed where others might fail. The mission was complete, but its impact was far greater than either of them had realized. They had proven that cooperation, trust, and respect could overcome danger, and that the underestimated could become the most extraordinary as the Academy lights dimmed for the night. Zyra and Ethan prepared for the next adventure, knowing that together they could face whatever